So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This video is going to be about Power BI and Power Automate. So what we're going to do is we're going to have one table, the orders table, feed information that is missing to the product table. So there are products that have been deleted or are not available on our products table, but they are of course on our orders table. So we're going to automatically move them from one table to the other. Okay, so let's get started. Right, so this is the game plan. I have this report that contains two tables, orders and products. Obviously, yours will contain more tables, but it doesn't matter. So orders and products, and I can see here, this is the product column from the orders table. This is the product column from the products table, and you see that there are missing two. I want to automatically feed these product 1 and 2 here into the products table, because if we get blanks, it's going to be a huge mess because this is a key. Okay, so we need to make sure that they are always available. So what I've done, if we go back to Power Query, is I have the orders table, I have the products table that unfortunately has just one product, and then I have another file. This is an Excel file that I have saved on SharePoint. So we go to SharePoint, missing products. It looks like this. It's just, at the moment, it's just an empty table. So I'm going to have the orders table feed in the missing products in here, and then in Power BI, what I'm going to do, this is going to get the new products, and then on the products table, I'm going to do an append, so they will appear there. So when I refresh the database or the data set, then suddenly the new products will arrive. Okay, so let's go to Power Automate to see how that works. Oh, you need to upload, obviously, this Power BI file into Power BI service, otherwise you won't be able to access it with Power Automate. So make sure that you publish it there, and then let's do it. Right, new flow. We're going to do a schedule cloud flow. This is going to be add missing product keys to orders. Start today, every day. I don't need every minute, every day. Thank you. Create. Right, and this Copilot I tested really crappy, and the new designer, I don't like it, and I'm going to tell you why. We have, most of us, white screens, so you have one stuff there and the other one on the other side, so it appears here and here. So it's a mess. I prefer the new designer. Thank you very much. So make sure that you have everything in the middle. So that's the feedback. So recurrence is already set. Next step is going to be, I'm going to start a little bit the way I did it, so you see why I did what I did. So run a query. That is the Power BI step against the dataset. Make sure you don't pick the JSON query, just run a query and then find your report on Power BI service. And now here we have to do a DAX query to get the details from Power BI. So how do we do it? I've shown you in all the million videos I have about it, but let's do it again. So this is the table that we want. So this table contains products from the orders table, and then I have filtered so the products from the product table should not be blank, which leaves us a table with the products that are missing. Okay, and now I want to get the DAX for these. So to get the DAX, you go to View, Perform an Analyzer, start recording, and then you refresh. And I think this one is this one. So then you can run in DAX query view. I've already done that, and because it saves, I don't need to do it again. Is going to run not exactly this, but something like that. I just clean it up a little bit. So I'm going to copy that and go back to Power Automate. I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to run it because I want you to see what the results are from this step. It is actually important moving forward. Done. And then we're going to look at the query that is generated. You can see here on the show the raw output. This is what this step returns out. And as you can see, is a JSON array. So you have here the details for the call, the HTTP call, and then you have the body, and you have the same result twice in different formats, either for rows or for first table rows. Here, as you can see, first table rows. So I've copied the query in here, so we don't lose sight of how this thing looks. These we're not going to need. So we are just interested on the first table rows, okay? So I thought, well, this is going to be easy, right? I just new step. I go add row into a table. Notice that it says a table. So your thing here has to be a table. And you can see table design, my table is called my table, okay? Make sure that you have a table, otherwise it won't show. So I'm going to find my Excel file. And this is my Excel file, and this is the table that I just showed you. You need to have a table, otherwise you will get into trouble. And here I thought, oh, first of all, what are the results of the run a query against the dataset? It's not there. Before you could get them, now I don't know why you don't, which is a pain. So you have to do everything manually, which makes things unnecessarily complicated. But where there's a will, there's a way. Don't worry, we will figure it out. Okay, so what we're going to do is, the way to create that query is just absolutely insane. But should I rename it? Maybe. I'm going to copy it and then I'll show you what it is. So this is how it looks. Output, run a query against a dataset. So note that the run a query against the dataset has underscores instead of spaces. It's important, and it's unfortunately that it's that way, but it's just what it is. Then we're going to navigate the JSON. So we're going to go from body to first table rows. You can see it here. That's what we're doing. And then I thought, oh, I just get the product number, and then we're done, right? Right? Let me show you. So I'm going to go to expression, paste that thing in, okay. And then here, I just want the users to know that this is a deleted product. So it's clear that the product is not available on the products table. It's gone for whatever reason. Okay, good. I run this. And then I get like these array elements cannot be used with selected integer, whatever weird error. Right, so I thought, maybe I need to loop it. I loop it, I've done everything that you can imagine. Nothing worked until I pick the values one by one. So if I do, instead of picking all the values at the same time, I pick the first one. My Python lessons have been useful in here, I can tell you that. So if I go in there, I get rid of that one, and I am going to, the 0 thing will say pick the first value from the JSON string, okay? So click OK, save. I'm going to run it, and it was successful. Let's look at the file and see what it came out. And it said product 1. Well, we have 2 products, not just one. So what is the second product? Well, we just did 0. We need to do 0 and 1 because there are 2 products. So they're like, oh, I have to loop this thing. And things start to get hairy. It's possible to do, it's no problem, but it's such a pain. I try to work with the JSON itself. So process the JSON and loop the JSON, nothing worked. If you have a better way, please feel free to let me know and I will update this video. But for now, this is the only way I can make it work. Let me show you. So as you are, I think, starting to figure out the same way as I did, is that instead of having in this output, why is it there? Over here, instead of having 0, we need 0, 1, 2, depending on how many rows. So the first thing that we need to do is to count how many rows we have, because we need to know that to know how many times we need to loop. Obviously, you could put like 1,000 and make it stop in somewhere. Let's just count it. And that's why if we go back to Power BI, I have here this 2. This counts the number of missing products. And if you do the perform analyzer run, go to the DAX query, it will give you a query that will return 2, right? So beautiful. So I'm going to get this, copy, back to Power Automate, and we're going to first initialize a variable that would tell what is the minimum number of rows, and then we're going to increment it, like loop it. So we start with 0, with 1, with 2, right? So here we're going to write variable. This is the same as when we were doing the export more than 100,000, exactly the same steps. So initialize variable. This is going to be rename my min rows, and I'm going to call it min rows, and it's going to be an integer, and I start at 0, I think. Let me show. Yes, I start at 0. Good. So we start with 0. Yeah, I start at 0 because here we start at 0. So the first value is 0, so you need to start by 0. Yes. Okay, good. Now we need to run a query before this query to count how many values we do have. So we're going to do here, add an action, run a query against the data set there, and then find it, and then copy the tags that you had. So paste it. And now that we have this, we need to convert this into an integer that we can store into a variable that we can use then to do a loop. So we're going to go in here, add action, compose, there. I'm going to first rename these so we know what it does. So it's going to count rows, right? And in the inputs, we're going to put the following. So it's very similar, but our step is now called count rows. So you replace run a query with count rows. Same structure for all Power BI is body first table rows. And then if you remember, the name of the column was count product number. You can see actually in here, count product number, you can change it to whatever you want. And this is the one that we need to put into our compose. So we go here, expression, put it in there. Okay. And this is, again, a variable that is going to store the number 2. So how many products are missing? How many loops do we need to do? Which in this case is 2 loops. And I'm going to change the name to loops to run. Right. So now if you remember, the 0 and the 1 is in here. So we can leave the run a query against the dataset. We only need to run it once, but we need to loop the add rows into a table. We need to do a do until. So we're going to go in there, do until there. And what is the minimum value? Is our minimum row. So we start from 0 until it is equal to the output on loops to run. So when the rows 0 are equal to 2, so when 2 is equal to 2, it means when we run it twice, stop. Otherwise, continue doing it again. Right, and now I'm going to put this inside here. And we need to do a small change because now these, can I see it please? Okay, we have the output here. It's better. So this 0 here is not going to be 0 now. This is going to be the counter, this counter. So this is going to be 0, and then it's going to be plus 1. 1 and 2, right? So instead of 0 here, we need to write the variable name, so variable minimum rows. The other stuff is the same, and this will increment. We haven't done the increment yet, but it will. So copy that, and then in here, you get rid of that, paste the new one, and update, right? Good. Now, minimum rows come here as 0. that's the loop once for 0, and now we need to increment the minimum rows with 1. So it was, and it stops when the number of rows is 2. So add action variable, and then is increment variable. So we're going to increment the minimum rows with 1. So this will go 0, and then 1 and 2, and then when this one is equal to this one, stop, kill it, save, and let's give it the world. Go in there and look at that. We have our product. We're not finished yet, though. A few things that we need to do. The first thing that I want us to do is, once we've done this and once we've added the product, we need to obviously refresh the data set so they get added to our product table. So what we need to do is, I'm going to insert a delay. And the reason for inserting a delay is that it takes a little bit of time before SharePoint says to Power BI that, hey, I've got new data. Don't know why, but it just does. So I'm going to here, new step, write delay. And then I'm going to write 3 minutes then. And once those 3 minutes passed, I want to refresh the data set. And the data set is the same as we had before, we just find it, right? So I'm going to delete these 2 products from here. I'm going to go back here, save this thing and run it. And then let's see if our report was updated or not. And then we will do the last change that I think we need. So we should have our 2 products in there, perfect. And now we're going to wait a little bit. Obviously, I will pause the video and get back when Power BI has been refreshed. Let me show you. So this is 2 o'clock now, almost 3 o'clock. And it is 3:30 now. So we'll see if this updates once the flow is finished. Right, so now it looks like it updated. Let's see if it did. Yes, it is updated. Fingers crossed. That should be blank now. It is. And then we have all the products on the product table. So cool. Now, what is left though? Let me show you. If I now go back and I run it again, you're gonna see what happens and why we need to do one more thing. You see what it's doing? It's adding products all the time. It's never meeting the condition of 2. So let me stop it. Right, I'm going to now go back here, delete all the rows that it added, and then go back. And we need to edit. Here's the thing. Maybe I should show you here instead. When we go here, minimum rows, say value 0, blah, blah, blah. Here, the Power BI result is empty. It's not 0, it's empty. Which gives a problem because when it comes here, everything is empty and run. So, there's nothing to count on. There's no, like, when you come to do until, do you remember that we had, and then when it goes here, minimum rows will never be equal to empty. So we run into trouble. So one way to solve this is to add a +0 in here. So when it's doing the count, instead of having it blank, you do +0, so it will always turn 0. Right, so once you have this variable not as blank but as 0, what you can do is do a condition, an if condition here. So you can say if the loop is not equal to 0, that means if we actually have missing rows, then do all this stuff. If it is equal to 0, do nothing. Like, leave it empty. You don't need to do anything else. Save. And as you can see, when it runs, it says, okay, minimum 0, minimum row 0, no problem, count rows is now 0 instead of empty. And then the loops to run will be 0. So the condition here is that the loops to run should not be 0. It is actually 0, so it goes into the node and stops the run. If we actually go back and delete the products and run it again, it will run and it will do what it needs to do. So yeah, this is everything. I hope this is useful. This is a way to manage crappy data. This is a way to manage not having blank rows or blank keys into your data set, getting it from the source itself. So it's not ideal. Obviously, you don't want data to be deleted, but it just happens and there's ways to manage it. So this is one way. Again, if you find a way to parse the JSON and to loop it without actually having to do this count stuff, just let me know. I will update the video. I just could not make it work for the love of me. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you again in the next one. It's going to be Christmas soon, so I'm not sure how many videos more I will make before I go on Christmas holidays, but I think maybe one more. We'll see. Take care.